I will call to order the 2021-22 Budget Committee for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. I understand all of the Budget Committee members are online, and in order to chair the meeting, you must be present. So Gary says, I will be chairing this meeting today. I would like all of the Budget Committee members to introduce themselves. First, we'll go with staff. I see the sheriff is here. Please start, and we'll go that way.
Sheriff Angela Brandenburg.
Hello, Chair Smith. Nancy Artman, Sheriff's Finance Manager.
Captain Brad O'Neill.
Thank you. And Christina, do we have people?
Hello.
Thank you, dear.
Michael Wilson, if you can go ahead and start.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Smith. My name is Michael Wilson. I'm a 9-year member on the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Citizens Advisory Board,
Okay,
and I'm second-term member of the Budget Committee.
excellent. And then we'll move on to JD Pavick. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself. You're on mute if you're trying to speak. Are you there, JD?
We can come back. We'll come back.
We'll come back to him. Okay. Oh, he just unmuted. Still not speaking. We'll just move forward.
Go ahead. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We have two of the two. Okay. All right. Thank you. We have had nominations. Well, we have not had nominations for chair, but I will ask for nominations for secretary. Is there somebody who wants to nominate someone for secretary who is online?
Michael Wilson speaking here. I'd like to nominate JD if he's connected.
JD Pavick, are you there to accept the nomination?
JD, if you're trying to speak, we cannot hear you.
What I'm going to do as chair is I'm going to nominate Michael Wilson as secretary.
Second?
The motion has been made to nominate Michael Wilson as secretary and seconded. I will take a voice vote for that, correct? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Michael, you are the secretary.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like Sheriff Angela Brandenberry would like to make some opening remarks on this budget.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Smith, commissioners, and members of the ELED Budget Committee. I'm Sheriff Angela Brandenburg, and I'm here today with Finance Manager Nancy Artman and our Patrol Captain Brad O'Neill to present the fiscal year 21-22 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. The proposed 21-22 ELED is what we call Enhanced Law Enforcement District budget is just over $8 million, and it supports 36 full-time positions. That's 29 deputies, 6 sergeants, and 1 lieutenant. The Sheriff's Office was quite resilient this last year of working through the pandemic and wildfires and ice storms while maintaining service levels expected by the residents of Clackamas County. Over the course of the last fiscal year, our staff worked in partnership with the ELED Advisory Board to engage residents in the district to identify needs and concerns. And I just want to take a moment to thank the members of the Citizen Volunteer ELED Advisory Board for their time and their efforts. We appreciate them very much. I'll now begin our presentation by highlighting some of the major accomplishments achieved in the ELED during this last fiscal year. So the ELED Advisory Board started an initiative to become more active within the district by providing outreach and information to its residents. This group continues to identify needs and concerns within the district. These needs and concerns are expressed during bi-monthly advisory board meetings. Members of the advisory board and CCSO staff collaborate on solutions to these issues and concerns. During this time, we've also discussed our performance metrics, which you'll see here in a little bit, as it relates to the ELED. Oh, during 2020, during the ice storms, we performed many, many welfare checks within the ELED. And I would venture to say that a large portion of our checks were in this ELED area. And then also during this last fiscal cycle, we've refined emergency operations and tactical responses to include drone technology, which was critical during our natural disasters of this last fiscal year. With that, I will turn it over to Captain O'Neill to talk about our performance metrics for the ELED.
Thank you, Sheriff. Looking at the performance measures, we were instructed by Finance not to change this form. So before we get going on this, I just want to clarify, when it says fiscal year 1920, we're actually talking about calendar year 2020. We measure our performance results by calendar year and not by fiscal year. So going through there, these 4 different categories, percent change in reported crimes against persons, against property crimes, self-initiated activity, and then the percentage of priority 1 and 2 calls for service that are responded to within 5 minutes within the ELED. A priority 1 and 2 call, those are our highest priorities. Those are typically crimes in progress, any sort of disturbance. The higher priority type of calls would constitute those priority 1s and 2s. As you can see, for calendar year 2020, we're up a little bit in crimes against persons and property crimes, and our self-initiated was down a little bit more, mainly due to the pandemic and how we had to kind of reinvent policing a little bit to fit into some of those guidelines. These are the same measures as our regular patrol has as well. And I will turn it over to Nancy.
Thank you. The main takeaway that I would like for you to have from this slide is that the ELED is entirely funded through the taxing district dollars. There are no general fund dollars that go toward the enhanced law enforcement district. Additionally, Captain O'Neill mentioned one of the metrics. You'll find that represented there. That is the priority 1 and priority 2 calls metric for the calendar year 20 and for the quarter 1 21. The revenue and expenses remain fairly consistent for the ELED. Our categories of revenue are tax proceeds, any ending fund balance, and interest earned. Expenses, on the other hand, are materials and services, debt service, and then any unappropriated ending fund balance. What I would like to call out to you is that the materials and services do include personnel, so you won't see a separate portion for personnel. The Enhanced Law Enforcement District contracts with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to provide those personnel services. It's rolled up into that materials and services number that you see before you. Debt service is static from year to year. There's a minor change due to interest, but we are scheduled to pay that off in 2026. So the structure of this slide, you've probably gotten familiar to looking at it, but I'll just walk you through. The beginning fund balance is, in fact, the ending fund balance from the year prior, so you'll see that represented across the first row. Our revenue are taxes. We also have a category called federal, state, local, and other gifts and donations. These are just a different form of tax that comes to the sheriff's, or rather the ELED. And then all other revenue resources, those are the interest that is earned on the funds that are in our account during the fiscal year. Our materials and services represent the majority of expense for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. The bulk of that, again, is personnel services, but we do include the other materials and services needed in order to run a full department. That would include what you might expect: some office supplies, payments for a portion of casualty insurance, and other necessary items for the district to function. It also does include a share of cost allocations. And then lastly, you see listed our debt service, and you can see how that's changed ever so slightly from fiscal year to fiscal year. Here again is a different representation of our overall budget. The Enhanced Law Enforcement District is one program budget. We'll discuss our other program budgets with you tomorrow during our second presentation. This again just demonstrates the full budgeted amount for fiscal year 21-22, which is a little bit more than $8 million, and represents an increase of about 2% from the last fiscal year. I'll now turn it over to the sheriff to conclude this portion of the presentation. Oh, pardon me, I'll turn it over to the captain.
I was delegated for this. So thinking back on this last year, some of the significant issues that we faced, resiliency really pops out in my mind. Not only resiliency in our citizens, our agency, our senior leadership here at the county, but working through the pandemic, having to recreate how law enforcement is actually handled with a lot of the restrictions that we were up against. Rolling right into the wildfires that we had here, the unprecedented wildfires. The thing that we are the most proud of out of that is 0% fatalities out of those wildfires. And when you're thinking about that, you not only have deputies here at the sheriff's office that are dealing with those wildfires from a professional standpoint, but many of them were having to evacuate their own families at the same time and live in alternative places going through there. And so we roll out of the wildfires into the holiday season. Right after the holiday season brings us the ice storm. Again, the ice storm significantly impacted the ELED with just not even having electricity to getting basic supplies and getting around. A lot of the good stuff that were provided were the food boxes and the community care initiative throughout the pandemic. And then the welfare checks during the ice storms, going around door to door, just checking on people's welfare, trying to identify those vulnerable citizens in our community to really get them the help that they needed. And then the evacuations on the wildfires as well. All of these together have created a significant impact to the budget. We are trying to get reimbursed through FEMA. We understand that's not going to be 100% reimbursement, but at this time right now, it's being absorbed by the sheriff's office budget until we can get that reimbursement back. So with that, this concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
I have a quick questions maybe for Nancy. How many FTE does this Enhanced Law Enforcement District buy?
Chair Smith, it's 36 FTE.
Okay, 36. And I just want to say to Captain O'Neill, we do appreciate very much the efforts that the Sheriff's Office undertook during the wildfires. It was very personal to a lot of people. Again, you stepped up again at the board's request to do wellness checks in our remote areas of people who needed it the most. And I really want to thank you for taking the lead on both cases. And we need you badly. But I think the citizens realized that too when they voted to increase 12 cents into this district, 55% margin. Citizens in Clackamas County said yes. We want more police force. We want more protection at a time when Portland has defunded their police force by $15 million. I think that's significant, and I think you can be very happy about that for taxpayers. So going forward, this tax won't be collected until next year, is that correct? And how many additional FTE do you plan or estimate you could add to what you currently have?
30, 29, 30.
Oh, just guess. I mean, I'm not going to
29,
make
30.
Yeah, approximately 30. I apologize, I don't have the data with me for today, but we're thinking approximately 30, and that
Well,
will,
30 is significant.
absolutely.
And in our rural areas, calls are the quickness of calls and the readiness is so important because we're so spread out. You have a lot of territory to cover, and that's much appreciated. And we're going to hear from the department budget pretty soon, and at that time, I would also like to know what your expenditures were during the 2 natural disasters that you have not been reimbursed for, and what you expect from FEMA and going forward. And I'm sure, Gary, that's just, questions just to be a heads up on that. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, yeah, just echo the chair's appreciation for the ice storm and the fire, wildfire outreach you all did out in that area. I think would be a good idea in the future to make sure that maybe somehow there's some language here that covers, or at least a map of what the ELED is. So for anyone watching, realize the ELED is not all of Clackamas County. So this is the urbanized area of Clackamas County, correct? ELED?
Parts of it, yes.
Okay. Yeah, not all of it, but just parts of it. Right.
It's been segmented over the years.
Right. So it would seem like, for example, on the wildfire piece, which was primarily, outside the district, right? As far as the response you all did, which is great, going door to door and getting those people out of there, out of danger, was highly appreciated and recognized. But it would seem to me that just because a district is a district, and it's a self-standing, should be an autonomous district, recognized for that there should be some reimbursement from, oddly enough, from the sheriff's office to the LED to keep the LED whole. So I think of between the LED and the levy and the sheriff's office budget, that somehow the autonomy of the district, being a district, should be one of the highest concerns, to make sure you're keeping that whole. So how do you budget for that?
That's a great question, Commissioner Savas. And we actually have we provided a work activity code, is what we call it, through the payroll system. And so anyone that worked on any of the disaster activities was requested to use that code. We then pulled by where that individual is assigned. So you're exactly right, for levy and ELAD. Any funding that we receive, we're going to ensure that they remain whole as well. So that will be our priority, is to make sure that they are reimbursed.
Is it identified anywhere what that liability is?
Unfortunately, not there, but we did prepare some information that we will have for tomorrow's presentation, and we can tell you the amounts and where that is assigned, so we can give you the actual values per operations levy and ELAD.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just, I know that the Sheriff Brandenburg understands this, but the district is probably the hardest one to actually recognize as being somewhat autonomous and making sure it's kept whole. There's a
Right.
legal responsibility, more so than the levy. You're responsible to taxpayers, and then in the district, then it's really us, Board of County Commissioners and so on the sheriff's budget for that piece. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
No, we appreciate that, and we agree with you. We do very careful accounting where the district is concerned for that very reason, because
Thank
it
you
is
very
an
much.
autonomous entity.
I'm going to go ahead and call for opening the public hearing on this. Do we have anybody in the room who would like to testify on this?
We do. I will call Dan Lowe up. Dan, if you want to go to the empty desk or table right there.
Daniel, please sit here, state your name and your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Daniel Lowe. I'm chair of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Sheriff's Advisory. Is that on?
Yeah, sir, it is, but just move closer to it, please.
The microphone moves, so. There you go.
I'm very shy. Actually, I just really object to having the mask on. I would be glad to take it off. I'm immunized, and we just had our first meeting actually at the sheriff's office, and over half of the committee was there in person, so we're actually moving along. I want to share a little bit more about what this meeting this year meant to the sheriff's department. At each of our meetings, we go through the line of duty deaths for all law enforcement agencies in the United States. We see that list. And you may or may not know it, but almost 50% of the deaths during this last year were from COVID. These officers are also stressed, just like all the rest of us, but there's a significant amount of infection and death that resulted. Not, fortunately, in the sheriff's department, and that has to do with good leadership and whatever. We worked hard in our individual communities, and we instituted, when I got to be the chair of the group, was business cards. And when I go out in my neighborhood and we start talking, I say, "Hi, I'm Dan Lowe. Let me give you a card." And then they would have an opportunity to give their opinion about different things. And if they asked, and sometimes they didn't have to ask, I would tell them about the sheriffs and the levy. And we worked hard on that. And I think we did have some impact. So I don't really have much else to say, but I will mention this. I haven't been associated with the sheriff's office all that long, but it is an incredibly powerful, well-run, outstanding leadership sheriff's department in my experience. And although I'm a native Oregonian, I've lived all around the country and around the world. I'm a retired Army reservist, and they're really good, and I'm proud of them. So it's a pleasure to serve as an advisor to the sheriff, and so that's all I have. I would be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you.
I live in Lake Oswego by zip code, but it's actually Lake Grove in an unannexed area. Yeah, questions?
See none. Thank you. Oh,
I got one question.
okay, go ahead, Mark.
On the summary of revenue and expenses, material and services line, does the sheriff's department supply the ELED with major equipment like patrol cars, et cetera?
Yes, sir. So that is included within the fleet budget.
Okay.
The overall fleet budget, and then the ELED pays a portion of that per year.
Okay, so that's not included in this 8 million?
That would not, just the share that they pay, which is roughly between 40 and 60,000, depending on what they can afford. And that includes maintenance, fuel, equipment needs, all of that you would need in order to fully equip a deputy to be out on the road.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Christina, anybody online during the public hearing?
I am going to throw it over to Dylan, who will handle that part.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. If any members of the public would like to comment on the Enhanced Law Enforcement District budget, please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom now. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you, Dylan. I will now entertain a motion from one of our Budget Committee members online.
I move that, this is Michael Wilson, I move that the committee approve the fiscal year 2021 through 2022 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District as presented, and impose a maximum permanent tax rate of $0.7198 per 1,000 of assessed value within the district boundaries.
This is J.D. Pavick. I'd like to second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
If I could just get, Nancy or staff to send me a more detailed budget, especially on the materials and services piece. I'd love it. Another level of detail will be appreciated.
Absolutely.
And with a map too, Commissioner Savas?
I don't need, I have a map from the previous.
All right.
Yes, we will send that your way,
Maybe
Commissioner.
add to that FTE and that type of thing.
Certainly.
Okay, hearing no, any other discussions? Seeing none, Christina, would you call the poll?
Yes, J.D. Pavick,
Yes.
Michael Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher. Aye. Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader. Aye. Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you very much, committee, budget members, and staff, Sheriff's Office for coming in. We appreciate you very much. And this meeting has adjourned.